Welcome to Throwing Multiple Arrows with version 19. Hey, I'm Eric, and in this video I'm gonna play with the new error info construct that we just gained in AL. From the perspective of adding to the language, this is one of the primary thing that was added to the language for version 19. And it's actually the first time in decades that the arrow function has changed functionality, so that's quite exciting. And but maybe so I really want to try this out, and I'll do it together with you guys. So this is kind of the first time I play with this. Let me know in the comments below if there's something I missed. Let me know if there's something you would like me to test afterwards. This is all new to all of us. So here goes nothing. Here goes Visual Studio Code, and I, just before the video started, created an action on the customer list, because that's where we always test. So let's try this out. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function called test, and let me call that from my action. So what we got was, let's create a variable called E1, error 1, with the anticipation that we might even get an error 2 at some point. And what we have now is a new data type called error info. Error info has a static function on it, so I can do error info dot create. So this, like a constructor, this creates an error variable value, and I could give this is the first error exclamation point. That's great. And now I can take the error function, and we can see that now there's an overload to error. So error has looked the same since version 3, the very first version of AL, from 31 years ago, basically. Today, this function has gained an overload. So this is the first change to error, at least from our perspective as AL developers, in 3 decades. And the overload is that we can pass an error info variable instead of just passing the text and the jokers as usual. So I'll pass E1 here, and now I get a squiggly line. Cannot convert from error info to text. Well, but there is an overload saying that I was supposed to do this. Okay, I actually know what goes on. So there is a bug in the compiler. So not a bug in Business Central, but there's a bug in the compiler saying that you have to mark target as on-prem right now for this. Let me save this, and now the squiggly line goes away. So this is a bug in the compiler, and I think the bug is already fixed. So per today, October 10th, Thanksgiving, by the way, here in Canada, it's probably fixed, but it's not yet rolled out. So right now I'm just using a on-prem Docker container to work against, but I think this will be very fast. Anyway, let's try to run this. And now I am just gonna do Control F5. So I'm gonna run this without the debugger. Let's see. So process test. I get an error. I even get the detailed information that here is some IDs that you can pass to somebody. It's very interesting. I chuckle a bit over, now that Microsoft has to support their own software, the focus on telemetry, the focus on error tracing, and all that stuff has really gained a lot of traction, because now now they're gonna support their own software, so now they are stuck with figuring out what went wrong, as we have been for ages. So I find it amusing that, hey, now there's a focus on making this better. Back in the days, all we got was perhaps something in the event log, and that was all. Anyway, so basically, this is the exact same thing as we had before, and I think I can enrich this error with stuff like that. I can add some extra. Let's say we have something extra info here, and I'll create that as a, let's see, custom dimensions are a, wow, that's a dictionary of text. So we'll create a dictionary of text, and then we could say that extra info, and this one does not have to be called, we don't have to call a constructor here, so that's very consistent. So we'll do extra info dot add info1 comma ordered by Eric and extra exit extra info dot add mood. Good. So now we can add this extra info to the arrow. So when this arrow is thrown, see how it goes. When this arrow is thrown, test, we get the error again. But if we were to go in and look in application insights or anywhere else where we could trace this error, we will actually get the custom dimensions in with it. So we have the option of enriching this error message with some useful information. So that's the then we can also define the data classification if the error message. So if you're in a GDPR area region or have to abide to PII regulations, then you can remove customer sensitive information from the error. So there's also an option of adding a detailed message. So this is extra detailed information on this error. Let's see what happens when we throw this. So nothing of that goes in. We're not going to tell the user about that, but again, I think this goes into all the telemetry. What else can we do? We can tell about a record, add a record ID. We can add a system ID and a table and a page number. The message is the one that we actually pass here a field. We can also add an error type, so we can say that error type, I think we do like this, error type equal client or internal, but I think this is, yeah, so this is, who needs to know this, the client, or is this just for us? But there's also a I think it's called, let's see what it's called. Let's see, verbosity. And we can set this to saying that this is a warning, verbose, normal, error, critical. Let's do it, go with critical here, see what happens. call this guy. Oh, I called it with debugger this time. There we go. 2 clicks. We got to break the right spot. This is the first arrow. There's not really anything more here. There's the explanation point. Does the icon, anybody notice what the icon was? Let's say that this is a warning instead. Is the icon changing? Or am I just not remembering how it looked on all the other ones? No, it's the same icon. Yeah. So basically it looks like that everything but the actual message on the error is just going into logs and telemetry. This is not really something that we are exposing to the user. Okay, so now we're up until now. We've just created a fancy error message, right? And some helpful stuff for whomever is reading logs and telemetry behind the scene. But what we could also do here, and this is where it gets interesting, is that we could say that E1 is collectible. And what does that mean? That means that it's actually not gonna throw the error. But in order for this to work, so I think if we set this to collectible and we run it again, I think this video is gonna be the new high score for most deployments in a single video. Let's see. So nothing happened here, just the same thing. We got an error and that's it. But if we here mark this procedure as set error behavior, and that takes a parameter called error behavior : collect, which is the only thing we can do at this point. So now we have told this function that it should just collect errors, meaning, and this is an error that can be collected. So what we need to do is let's see if we can make this work. I'm still alive down here. So now we have a message after error. So here is any old navigation, anything programmer will look at this and say, okay, this message will never execute because error stops execution. So let's try. See what happens. Come on, BC. There you go. Process, test. You know it's what's going to show that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. So I'm still alive. So at this point, we got the message that was after the error. But under this, there's the error. So hang on. So where is this actually thrown? Okay, let me show you, and let me now deploy with the debugger. I call a test function. We got a break, but you see now we get the break on calling test, meaning that everything, because we set the error behavior to be collect errors, and the error we have defined that to be collectible, then it's just gonna collect it until we are at the end of the collect scope. and then the error is going to be thrown. So let's up the ante just a bit here and figure out. So what I want to do now is I want to copy this guy. So let's have error number 2. And you know what? E1, E2. Yes. There we go. So now we have, this is the second error. So now we have 2 errors. And let's do one warning and one critical, and mood is now bad in this one. So these are both collectible. I will run without the debugger. Go away with that one. Call this guy. And now we actually, you know, the biggest source of errors is people just copy pasting code. So now we're trying to add more information into the extra info structure. So we'll just keep that one and reuse that one. So that was typical. You copy paste and you add an error. I guess that's almost an entire video in itself. Don't copy paste code, but I do it anyway. So I'm still alive. We got the message. Multiple errors occurred during the operation, with the first of which is a lovely language. This is the first error. All errors can be found on the detail message. And now we see that this one changed. For the first time, this actually changed. So now we got both errors listed here. And if we try to run this again with, no, I don't want to do that. You know that this is where the break is. So let's try one more thing before this video gets too long. So let's add a new procedure here. And E3 arrow info, not a gaming convention. So E3 equal arrow info dot create. So there's another way that, so right up here we are, you know, just creating this and then we're filling out all the things. But there is actually a way to do is you can see that most of these are actually as optional parameters. So we can see this is wow, this is the third error. Comma, and then we need to be collectible, yes, and we need a record, we need a field number, and we need a page number, and something control name, and verbosity, verbose, and let's see what else we have. Data classification, customer content, and custom dimensions. I will just stop here. So now we actually created a E3 that is all this. So we can just do an arrow E3, and then let's call this up here. No, I'll call this one up here. And I'll just, no, I'm gonna call this without the debugger. I'm still alive. Multiple errors during the operation of the first, which is detail information. This is the first, this is the second, this is the third error. Okay, so let's examine that for a second. So even though that, you see, if we change this one up here and I run this again, so now we're just calling test2, that just throws an error. This is the third error, and this is thrown directly. I should have called that with the debugger. I'm sorry about that. Let me call it with the debugger. Why am I actually running this in like a small window? Huh, that is weird. So we got a break and we get it right here. So the interesting thing is that, let me go back and change this just so that calling this function, and on the call stack there is a collect error behavior, then stuff is still just getting collected in here. So what would be interesting would actually to be test4. This one should still throw error because that is not marked as collectible, right? But because this one was marked as collectible, this error is collected due to the fact that the out of scope of calling the function is marked as error behavior collect. Interesting. I think that's a 22 minutes. Yeah, this is a good spot to end this video. Let me know in the comments below if this is something that you're gonna use. I think we already have lots of ways to collect telemetry in different ways. Maybe Microsoft is working on standardizing stuff like this. I could see in some certain processes this could be interesting. One thing I didn't test, and I'm not sure if actually, you know, see you later. The video's done. Now we're going into bonus content. Sorry. So what I was thinking was that if we have a procedure, let's call it try test here, and this one is a try function, right? So in here we're calling test. So now we're gonna say if not try test, then ignore this guy, and then we're gonna say message get last arrow object .net. Now let's just get last arrow text, and we can exclude customer. We don't care about that. So I wonder what we're getting here. Sorry, bonus content. I just thought, hey, what about, how does this actually play together? So we get there like we were supposed to. We get I'm still alive. And then we get multiple errors occurred during the operation, the first of which is, but now there is no detail message. So we're not getting all three, we're just getting the first one. Okay, yeah. I guess what would be interesting would be to get a, you know, get last. Okay, so we also have the Okay, the interesting thing, we have the get collected arrows. So maybe we actually need to look at that in the current collection scope. But I thought that was only the reason I looked at those and say, I'm not sure what to use them for, because that's kind of in the scope. But can I get them here? So that was a list of arrow info. So let's create a E as a list of arrow info. So E equal, and then we can just message something here like dot count and no, let's just do dot count. That's fine. Let's see if this makes any sense, if this function can be called outside of a collect scope. I'm still alive. Arrow info counts 0, so no. Okay. Now the video is ending for sure. No more bonus content. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. I will see you again in the next video. Stay safe, have fun, and keep on throwing arrows. See ya. Bye.